Okay, everyone, welcome to my channel. And we have Tony here today. And I run into Tony at some of the networking events, and he speaks fluent Mandarin, which freaks me out of it. And then got some northern accent, which is quite authentic. And then at the same time, Tony is also one of the partner and one of the top mortgage broker firm as well, and one of the leading broker in the industry. So today, I'm going to interview Tony about his personal experience, and then we're going to exchange some of the value and get insights at how different culture look at money in different way. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Let us know a little bit about yourself, why you got into banking, and why you get out of the bank, and then what's the difference of the two career you feel out.
Well, it's funny. The story of me getting into banking is a bit of a meme because I was saying to Tom earlier, I took a gap year from uni to go work in China, and that's how the Chinese element came into play. But then when it was time, I became a father in China. My oldest son was born there. And then we decided that we would rather our son or our children grow up in Australia based on my experience of both teaching children in China and seeing what life for a child in China is like versus my experience growing up in Australia. And there was a few other elements as well. So growing up different in a monocultural society, as well as the opportunity for just a fairly easy level of life in Australia. But my in-laws asked me, they said, Tony, you're going back to Australia. You know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do for money? And I said, well, they keep all the money at the bank, so I'll get a job there. Because I figured if I'm gonna make money, I'll go where they keep it. And it was pretty simplistic and naive, but that's what prompted me to go get a job at the bank.
You seem like a people person. You like to service the people, and that's what you're enjoying as well. And any other prospect you enjoy in the banking sector?
Look, banking sector, I think what drew me in was, first and foremost, as a dad and a husband, you got bills to pay. You got a responsibility to your family. And so that was my sole motivation, was providing for my family. I don't think at the start of your career, you really have an option to be like, what's my passion? It's just grind, grind, grind. And I think over the course of grinding in that particular industry, what I realized was I just love helping people. So I think what kept me in banking was the fact that I was in a position to help people in a significant way, with their property purchase. But what actually caused me to go, I want to get out of this, was when I realized at a certain point, it now becomes more about politics than helping people.
People are surprised that Tony is a broker and I am a broker as well. You can actually come to my podcast, but we talk about this a few times that both of us believe the market is like big enough, and then there's no competition, and we are both educating the market. We hope the clients are more educated.
Absolutely.
Short of staff as well.
100%.
I'm the service industry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I definitely see Tom as a colleague. I think everyone in our industry who's worth their salt feels the same.
Yep.
Where you're colleagues. It isn't a competition. We're here to help each other. So if there's something that I need, I know I can call Tom and he can help, and vice versa.
Call me more. I'll call you more. Not so many language. And also you have a very diversified cultural background as well. Like what makes you to pick up Mandarin, or what attracts you to learn this language?
I'm talkative. I think that's the most polite way of describing this habit of mine. In Chinese, you would call it hualao. So I'm when I was in China, it's not like I was set out like I'm going to learn the language. I just worked in a very small school with Chinese colleagues and no other foreigners, and I just had to learn. Like if I didn't learn, I had no one to talk to. So I had my little Lonely Planet Mandarin phrasebook, and I would just talk nonsense, just read stuff, and they would laugh and correct me. And I had no shame. I didn't care that I was being laughed at.
You have a very thick face. That's very important to learn a language.
Absolutely. Thick face.
Practice.
Yeah, like inches, watermelon skin. That's what you want. So you want to just throw yourself into it. And that's how I picked it up, really. And when I went to the bank, when I left China, I was conversational. And when I went to the bank, I started in a call center. And I just remember one day someone going, I've got this client from Sydney and they don't speak English. Does anyone speak Chinese? And I was like, put my hand up, sat down on this other person's computer. I had Google Translate open and I'm there going, interest rate. And I butchered it, but they kind of got what I meant. And just by having Google Translate open, I learned banking Chinese.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your romantic story.
The story behind it was I was invited to a Canadian friend's house party, and we went there, and they met my wife and had invited her as well. So that's where I met her, and it was she actually was looking to manage or run gigs for foreigners who could sing Chinese songs, and then like hire them out to bars. So like you go and sing, and then she gets a cut, and so got to talking to me because my boss at the time had gotten me into doing some really weird stuff. So I was just going to supermarkets to do singing and whatever to advertise the school. And yeah, so she asked permission. I asked my boss. He said no, but that got the texts and the talking. And then, yeah, we just started hanging out more and started dating. She ended up, after a period of self-discovery and sort of spending time raising the kids and really trying to find out who her authentic self was, she has a real passion for art and tattoos.
So Tony, tell us a little bit about the culture crash. That's my curiosity as well.
Yeah.
Because current modern China culture, it's all about money, making the money, economics, buying the luxury stuff, send the kids to the most expensive private school, and then you have true culture in the family, and then maybe different expectation from both sides as well. So how's their expectation on you and how your family value the money and education?
Yeah, well, my side of the family they just wanted us to do well. They didn't particularly care what it was in, and they had, I guess, a belief in foundational education. So just learn the basics and be a good person, and the rest will sort of come. You'll be happy, because you have a lot of rich people who are desperately unhappy. And I think everyone, if they're really honest with themselves, will know someone who's in that position where it seems like they've got everything, so why aren't they happy? Well, if you ask them, the metrics always change, so it's never enough. And I think that's a mindset. Mindset is something I'm very, very passionate about. And I think with China's resurgence and its focus on getting ahead, I think the Chinese market is very, very competitive, unbelievably competitive, just based on the number of people that are there. So when they come here, they have that same competitive attitude where if you're not the best, you will fail, you will lose. One of the Australian elements, talking about cultural crash, was in Australia, I think for the first 15 years after high school, the people that made the most money poured concrete from my high school. Australia is one of the few countries where if you're just a smart person, you can do manual labor and make good money. The opportunity to scale is there. The opportunity
and they're
to
very well educated as well. They're very good people too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
So
different from the cheap labor market in China.
yeah,
Where if you don't have an education background, you can only go to the construction site.
well, not just that, but if you don't know the right person, if you don't know the right person to slip the red envelope to, like there's just so many arbitrary restricting factors where you could be incredible. Yeah. Your untapped potential could be unbelievable, but just because of circumstance, you don't know the right people, you didn't go to the right school, you will do nothing with your life. You'll be trapped for your whole life. And that the idea of that is, for me personally, is terrifying.
Yeah. And dear audience, Tony got a new book coming out
about
the mindset. All right, that's a much bigger topic and high level than just making money. So stay tuned. When is that going to be out?
That should be out by the end of the year.
Can you tell us a little bit about the book?
So
we can collect some interest.
Yeah, look, thank you so much, Tom. Look, the book started because I wanted to pursue. I'm blessed enough that we've dominated in our industry like you have, and now you can explore your passions here with property and helping people become financially free. For me, I have had my own mental health battles. I'm dealing with things like the cultural clash and being a young father. I was a dad at 22. So
also dad at 32.
Yeah. So yeah, my son's he just started high school this year.
Wow.
Be in grade 8 next year. So, for me, I thought all this stuff that I had to learn the hard way. I wish my children, I want my son to not have to learn that the hard way. I don't want him to suffer what I had to suffer to learn what I learned. So I set about creating a book that was almost like a primer.
It's a big courage because a lot of people in Australia, actually, a lot of people experience that, but they don't have the courage to share it, to show themselves they're vulnerable.
Well, I think in my reading, so during COVID, I think it broke a lot of people. I saw that happen in my friends. And I had the mindset to get a home gym when I realized what was happening. Got a home sauna. I stocked up on books. Like, what are the top 10 books to, just be a better person, essentially, be more effective as a person. And so I exercised, I read, I got into supplementation to really support the level of growth and activity. Everyone who is a high performer in any field is supplementing. And they're supplementing with not just physical supplements, but supplements that enhance your ability to focus, concentrate, and reduce anxiety and so on. So I got really into that rabbit hole. So, I learned in that time all the progress I'd ever made was when I was vulnerable, was when I dropped my guard and was honest and open and vulnerable and showed that to people. And you think people will judge you, you think people will look down on you, but what it does is it creates connection. And connection creates understanding.
What's the biggest culture crash you have when
all right,
work and studying?
I hope my wife doesn't listen to this, man. But we're getting vulnerable. This is the vulnerable point. I would say it's definitely in how Chinese families are raised. So Chinese families are not raised to be vulnerable. Yeah. And in my experience, if you're sad, anger. If you're frustrated, anger. If you're not feeling well, you're confused, anger. So I think the culture clash for me was trying to educate and guide and work through that to better understand that they're not angry, they're actually, confused or sad or frustrated, whatever it is. Because especially, in China, for those who are watching and don't know, there's a very distinct culture between the North and the South. And from my experience, they say, Southerners, they like to mouth off. Northerners will throw fists. So, coming from, I guess, the culture clash point of view where, my parents never really argued, which, to be honest, is a problem. I think healthy discussions and heated discussions are a healthy part of a marriage. But, they never really argued that we ever saw. I didn't learn then how to resolve differences. And then likewise, I think a lot of Chinese people growing up, their parents don't sit them down and say, oh, this is how you resolve a difference.
So actually, one of the technique to communicate is when the other party is getting angry. So rather than you become angry and defending yourself, you start to calm down the other side, acknowledge their emotion, and then start asking why. Why you're angry? Is it because you're sad, confused, or frustrated?
Absolutely.
How can we, improve make this better?
Yeah.
So rather than being very defensive, oh, you yelling at me, so I yelling you back, just making things worse. And then start fighting. So Mandarin seems like a very popular language subject in both uni and high school. So as an Aussie who speak fluent Mandarin, how do you find that adding value to your business career or life perspective? Or does it necessarily just bring a few more Chinese clients, or would you feel comfortable that they will express their, open up all their personal finance to you from a Chinese client's point of view, even if you speak fluent Mandarin, but from different culture background?
Look, I think I had this mentality, and I think a lot of people do. I learn Chinese, the world is my oyster. It's going to unlock all this unlimited opportunity. I think that expectation needs to be seriously dialed back, in my experience. What it does is it gets you noticed. But the same thing, like having an interesting tattoo can get you noticed. Having a cool haircut can get you noticed. Driving a nice car can get you noticed. Speaking Chinese gets you noticed. So I think a lot of people's success in life is getting noticed. And then what do you do with that? So if you are effective, you communicate clearly and well, it doesn't matter what language, as long as you've been noticed, it will help. So has it gotten me noticed when I was working in the bank? Yes. In the broking industry? Yes. Has it gotten me clients I otherwise wouldn't have? Yes. But I would say a small percentage. It's not game changing, a small percentage. For me, the most rewarding aspect of knowing Chinese has been being able to educate those clients from a local standpoint in the proper approach to things and the way that certain elements that they might think are okay culturally probably aren't. So building a bridge in that sense. But otherwise,
pay more taxes.
Oh, that's the golden one. Just pay more taxes. You know, it's
to all migrants, perhaps. Yeah.
and it's funny because for a culture that is really predicated and values making money so much, the pay less taxes piece. This is going to be controversial, right?
Yeah.
Comes from a poverty mindset. You cannot make money with a poverty mindset. So if you want to make money, lots of money, the inevitable outcome is taxes. So where I see people fail is they will make a lot of money and they're on a great trajectory, and then they speak to their accountant or they speak to friends who don't know any better and they get told you're paying too much taxes, and their focus changes from making more money to just paying less taxes. And when they go from a making money mindset to a pay less taxes mindset, the only way you do that is by making less money.
So you stop yourself to scale.
Exactly. You stop your scaling.
You say, oh, what's the point of scaling? I'm going to double my tax. And all that. Then you probably stop making a great business.
100%.
Our business model are very similar. Like bring on people to become good brokers and then provide a platform, and it's commission only.
Yeah.
And it's a very, I think, different culture taken differently. For a long time, our own business think that only Asian firm do that. Like say white people firm will always pay PAYG plus commission for sales guy or for broker. But then actually that's not necessarily the case.
No.
And for high performing sustainable company, like broker have to appreciate taking the result of their own performing.
Absolutely.
Behavior, all that. So how do you take on that? Like when you find that our business model is similar as yours, were you surprised, or were you like reassuring that you're on, this is the right model?
It's good to hear because it means we're not crazy.
Yeah.
Right? To see, I mean,
so a lot of people's reaction is that you're crazy.
They go, how do you keep them? Or what are the splits? Or that doesn't make sense. You know, you're constantly getting questioned on these things. But to see someone else who's done it and done it very successfully reinforces that we made the right decision.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're seeing a lot of big company out there. They have a big overhead. It's hard to motivate their staff as well. And then when the staff are well performed, they feel like they should take more cuts. But they have probably didn't share the perspective where the owner contributed before while they are not making the KPI, they're making loss.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but when the staff making more profit, they want to share more, so that doesn't average out. So then we figure out maybe we just, okay, you have more split, but then you take your responsibility. There's no base payment. But we provide all the facility and background. If you want coaching, if you want bargaining power, if you want customer service, backend support, we provide all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Industry branding is huge. So, you know, people want to know that they're dealing with a safe bet.
Yeah.
So if they can see you're part of a large organization, it's much better than operating out of your car boot.
Yeah, and personal branding as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you know, there's a very unique type of individual because if you're excellent, like I have people approach me all the time saying, oh, you know, maybe I should be a broker. And you ascertain, you go, you're a very strong-willed person who thinks that they know how to do everything. You're definitely not the right fit because eventually you're just going to leave and think that you can do it better because you're not getting the results you want. You notice that in a certain subset of people where it's constantly other people's fault. They're not where they want to be. And we see that because majority or all of our guys are ex-bank. And so the bankers that we previously allowed in were the ones that would say, oh, you know, I'm not performing because XYZ, the bank's crap, their process is crap, whatever it is. What we learned was non-performers are non-performers. Performers will perform no matter what.
It's like if you don't know how to swim, you change another swimming pool, the result is the same.
Yeah, it's like, look, I'm freestyling, but if you let me backstroke, I'll kill it. Now you can't swim.
Yep. So you need to learn. And so broker is really, really tough business as self-employed.
It certainly is because of the lead time. You know, like for a lot of industry, like if I'm a plumber, I fix the thing, I get paid for fixing the thing. As a broker, you educate a client, nothing happens. They come back to you 3 months later. You do a loan, put it in, nothing happens. You've done all this work now, still not paid. 3 months later, then they find a property, but the pre-approval's expired. So you have to do a bunch of work again, get it renewed. And then 3 months after they've purchased, then you get paid. So,
and then if they leave at 11 months, they get clawback.
Oh, don't even. I had one this month, and like if you get some people, you're like, I kind of expected that. But when you really go out on a limb to help someone in terms of it was urgent, you remember rushing, you remember telling your team to put aside other client files because we want to make this happen.
Yes.
And then 11 months later, you see that bill. Because tell me another industry where if I'm a concreter and I pour concrete and then they get someone else to pour concrete on top, they come back and ask for their money back from me. Hang on a second. I could have poured the extra concrete. You could have come to me to do that. You chose to go elsewhere. So I feel like that's not the cost they should bear, but no, it's a cost we bear.
Yeah.
So I don't know of any other industry where you literally have to bend over backwards and make the client feel worshipped so that they don't go anywhere else. So the method of remuneration is tough, and it also engenders the need to just deliver and deliver above and beyond.
But we have that conversation very openly with our clients. We share them the rules, how the broker can pay, what is clawback. But we're reassuring that we're going to provide annual review service, or now even some company even do it better. Every 6 months, they send them email and a review to encourage the clients to come back to the same broker. If they were not happy with the lender, then give them at least the first chance.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
So then clients can feel them, okay, thank you very much. I didn't realize that I only spent 2-3 hours with you, but you do need to spend another 20 or 40 hours behind the scene to get things happen for me. Most clients appreciate it. They can understand where they come from. They don't feel like handcuffing them for another 24 months. It's actually a reassurance. Like we here, I sell the TV to you, I will have a minimum 24 months warranty or even longer.
Absolutely.
They filter out a lot of clients. You rather filter them out at the very beginning. I don't want to handcuff, or I don't feel this fair. That's fine. We rather a quick no at the front, and then they can go to the bank direct. But the thing is, the branch close. The people in the bank, they have their own career progress. So in 1 or 2 years' time, it may be another banker of yours. But brokers' role now is less transactional, not just selling. We encouraging more and more. Brokers to write books, write their own program, do the YouTube. So then a lot of common sense for us will become a common sense for the clients. And then they have more sense to, they can manage their mortgage without more stress. It's become a common language and more financially, literally educated.
And that goes back to the business model that we both propagate and use. And that is, our guys are so invested in the business, like they're here for life. It does mean that the pace of growth is relatively slow, as the pool of people that will not only be okay with commission only, but be successful in it and thrive in that environment is very small. So it throttles growth somewhat, but what you're left with is a bunch of people that are basically in this for life. Like they will carry their clients from now for the next 20 years, because like we've got a broker and she was originally our first PA for Luke and myself, the business partner. And we said to her, Patty, you definitely need to be a broker. You're such a personality. Like we recognized that was for her, and we pushed her into it. She said we were trying to push her out of the business. I said, no, Patty, you got to understand. We see the potential.
Push out the comfort zone to the next level.
We're pushing you out of processing, and we're telling you now, she's older. Her daughter's, was looking to start a family. So she was going to be a grandma, and she just wanted to be a grandma. Now she's writing as much, if not more than the top writers. She's part-time. And she's with her granddaughter all the time, and she's looking after. She's done all her friends' loans, her friends' kids' loans, and then for some of these guys, it's the friends' kids, grandkids are probably going to get their loans with her. So
and we would never say no to wisdom from a more senior family friend, like telling you should do this. Do that. So it's a good example for young people.
100%, 100%. So we can see that throughout, and there's definitely. It's a bag of all sorts, our group, but there's something there for everyone. And the commission model really lends itself to almost to like law firm partnerships, where it's like they have a stake, as it were, in making sure that they look after their portfolio of clients impeccably and that they hang around.
One last question to Tony today is, if you have the knowledge and experience today and you can fly back to the time 10 years ago, you have a chance to grab yourself and say, hey, young Tony, do this. What would you say?
It's funny because I have this is my only fantasy. People fantasize about funny things, sports cars, the dream life. My fantasy is to take everything I've learned over the last 17 years since leaving high school and to go back to my 18-year-old self and literally shake myself and say this one thing. But if the rules of this game are you've got one thing, I would definitely say to myself at that time that you are enough. You are enough, Tony.
You're good enough.
Yeah,
you're the best.
You're good
version of Tony.
Yeah, I'm enough. And what I mean by that is keep excelling, keep trying to do the best you can, but don't hate yourself. Don't beat yourself up mentally, emotionally, look down on yourself, have a low self-esteem because of where you are. You're 18. What do you expect? Right? So just to tell myself I'm enough. And I realized that meant so much to me at the start of last year, before books and writing and all that stuff was, mattered. And I actually got it tattooed on my wrist.
Oh, can you show that today?
Yeah. So I got the words enough tattooed on my the word enough tattooed on my wrist.
Happiness.
Yeah.
You're happy with what you have.
Yeah, and not to let. I always want more. Don't get me wrong. I want more. I want to do more. I want to see more. I want to be more. But don't let that affect my happiness.
Yeah. So this is a saying from my mentor, JT Falk, is that enough make you happy. Chasing more is another level of satisfaction. You're not satisfied, but you're still happy.
Absolutely.
Don't ruin your own mindset. Another bad day,
Yeah. Look, and this is the thing. Like when I started writing this book, it was like very textbooky. But what I realized, the more I got through it, there's this weird dichotomy to life, and it's present in, I realized leaning back on my experience in China with yin and yang, there are two elements to everything. In every, let's say, portion, there's like a white portion, there's a small black circle. In every black portion, there's a small white circle. For something like enough, it sounds like, but that's impossible. They contrast. They can't fit. It's like oil and water. But it does. It really does. It's a miracle that's constant. It's an eternal truth where life is filled with dichotomies that must coexist for your ultimate happiness. And that being, always strive for more. Never be satisfied, but be happy because it's enough.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for your time today.